So, a few months ago, PlayStation decided to go ahead and drop a teaser YouTube video of the new PS5 Slim, the digital and the disc version. But I couldn't seem to find a YouTube video of an unboxing or a review of the Slim digital version. For some reason, if you look everywhere on YouTube, it's all going to be the disc version, which I know for a lot of people, they wanted to see this version of the PS5 Slim, so that's what I'm going to be bringing you today. I'm sure it's not really what people expected or what people really wanted, considering all the PS5 Pro rumors and leaks that have been going on over the past year, saying that they were going to release the PS5 Pro at the end of this year or maybe the middle of 2024. But it looks like this is the best we're going to get, and this is the best way to experience your PlayStation 5 in 2023 and 2023 beginning of 2024. So let's get right into it. So this isn't going to be a huge departure from the original design that dropped in 2020. As most people know, every single time a PlayStation Slim model comes out, it's more like an S update on an iPhone when Apple used to do that back in the day. So Sony released two new consoles. They dropped two Slims, one that was a digital and one that was a disc drive version. This is the digital version that we have here today. Now, the cool thing about the new PS5 Slim is that the disc drive is now modular. So it's good for a low barrier to entry. If, let's say, somebody wants to get a cheaper console because they can't really afford one with the disc drive at the moment, it's easy for you to go ahead and buy the digital version right now for a lower price. Later down the line, when you save up some money, you get a couple games, you might want to go ahead and buy a disc game off someone. You can take this panel off, boom, boom, and go ahead and slap a modular disc drive onto this PlayStation. It'll be just like you bought a disc drive version from wherever you bought it from in the first place. The form factor is overall smaller in every single dimension on the console. I can see how people would say that the matte on glossy panels that this console has can make it look cheap. Me personally, I like it. So that leads more onto the design. On the disc drive version of this console, which we don't have here today, but I'll just go ahead and let you know that the power and eject buttons that used to be the same on the PlayStation 5 original are now separated, presumably to make the disc drive easier to be made modular. On the disc drive version, it has two USB-C ports now on the front instead of the original console's one USB-C and one USB-A. There's still USB ports around the back, and I'll show some B-roll footage of what that looks like as well. But you can kind of see too that the HDMI port is now more high in the middle of the console, which I think was a weird design choice by Sony, because when you lay the console vertically, it kind of now looks kind of weird because the HDMI cable is now very visible from the side and from the front angle of the console where you would be sitting from the couch or looking from the side of the TV. You can kind of see the HDMI cord coming out of the console, which I think is a terrible design choice. So me personally, I'll be laying it horizontally for the remainder of me owning the console for that exact reason. All right, so in terms of the storage, now you have an entire 1 terabyte SSD internally within the console. You're not going to be able to use entirely the amount of that, which is just like the original console. However, you can use about 175 gigabytes more than the original console had. I think the original console had like 825 gigabytes or something like that, but now it's 1 full terabyte, so that gives you a little bit more space. That's probably a game or two more than you can have before without having to upgrade your SSD, which would then lead me into the expandable storage on the console. So just like the original console, right, you could take off the panels and you could add your SSD in the NVMe slot that was under that little panel with the screw or whatever underneath the panel. But you still have the same thing on this PlayStation, but now the upgrade is that you can now put up to 8 terabytes, where I think before it must have been around like 4 terabytes or something like that. I can't exactly remember. I'll show the number here on what the original console used to be. But now you can do 8 terabytes, which puts your maximum storage on the console to 9 full terabytes, which I don't even think you could fill that up, honestly. I don't know how many games people own these days, but even though games are starting to get quite big, I don't think you're filling that up for quite some time. Maybe when GTA 6 comes out. In terms of the weight, it's substantially lighter than the OG console is, substantially lighter, and even still lighter than the second PS5 revision that came out with the smaller heatsink that made it a little bit lighter, like the soft update that they bring out and never told anybody, if you guys remember what I'm talking about. The original PS5 weighed in at 3.9 kilograms, and this new one weighs in at 2.6. So that's quite a bit more. That's more than a whole kilo lighter, which is... You could easily throw this in a backpack and go to a LAN party, go to your friend's house if he doesn't have a PlayStation or whatever, and you wouldn't even feel this thing in your backpack. I can literally throw this thing around and it's just fine. I wouldn't recommend doing that though. So basically what it seems to me is that Sony over-engineered the thermals on the original PlayStation 5, which is why you saw them come out with that revision after that where the heatsink ended up being smaller. And I think the engineers there realized that the console doesn't need to be this big, which is why I think we ended up having these two consoles come out of nowhere. Now finally, we're going to talk about the teardown. Now, I'm not one of those channels that's going to take this thing down to the motherboard. If that's something you'd be interested in, I'll go ahead and link an actual video of somebody tearing this thing down to the smallest parts. if you're an engineering major or something like that and that's something you actually care about. But for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna be taking the panels off so I can show you guys the SSD plate and show you guys how you're gonna update your NVMe storage in this console here rather than the OG PS5. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this was my first time ever doing that, and that sounded absolutely horrible. So now that you got your PS5 all the way torn down, you can see where the SSD slot is. If you end up taking off the bottom panel and you see the connector for the modular disk drive, you just go one panel up and you'll find your SSD slot. Then you're just gonna take a Phillips bit head screwdriver. Go ahead and take this one screw out. Take this plate off, and boom, you got your SSD slot. You'll go ahead and slide it in sideways, push it down, take the screw out first, push it down, and then you'll be able to put the screw back in wherever, how long your SSD is, put the plate back on, and then you're good to go. Plug the PS5 back in, and now you've upgraded your storage. All right, with that being said, what are my thoughts on the PS5 Slim? I'm gonna say that if you still already own an original PS5, do not buy this. It's a terrible buy. It's literally the same console, and unless you really care about getting an extra 4 terabytes or something of expandable storage, then it's probably not for you. But if you don't have a PS5, you're coming from a PS4, you don't have a console at all, or you have a PC, you just want a PlayStation to go along with it, this is definitely going to be your best way to experience PlayStation 5 in 2023. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you really liked the video. Let me know what else you guys want to see in the future. If you guys want to see more reviews, if you guys want to see product shots, photography tutorials, anything like that, let me know. This has been Cisco. Live, love, laugh. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.